anti-Semitism is pure darkness. When we look at the BDS movement, when we look at labeling issues, it's the darkness of hatred that's bringing those about.
You're listening to Inside Israel Today with Gil Hoffman on the Land of Israel Network.
Hello and welcome to Inside Israel Today, here on the Land of Israel Network on thelandofisrael.com. We are here when it is the last day before the deadline to form a government. It is not looking good at all. It's probably too sad to even deal with it. So we've decided to take you today to the Israel Allies Foundation event at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, where Gideon Sa'ar, candidate for Prime Minister against Netanyahu in a Likud primary whose date has not yet been set, is speaking about what's going on in the world right now for Israel and about foreign policy. And I think it was very important for our listeners to hear a candidate for Prime Minister speak in English. So here is Gideon Sa'ar.
Today the weather is a bit cold. The political situation is also a little cold too. But I welcome all of you warmly to Jerusalem, the eternal capital city of the State of Israel and the Jewish people. I want to talk to you about something that I think we are missing today around the world when we talk about Israel and the conflict here in the region, and that is moral clarity. Today, around the world, I feel we are suffering from a lack of moral clarity when it comes to a number of key issues. Moral clarity in the ongoing war against Islamic extremism and terrorism, and moral clarity when it comes to the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. We see around the world so many trying to explain or try to make excuses for Islamic terror. Sometimes they won't even call it terror. Then they are surprised when there are terror attacks on the streets. There is no more clarity in trying to understand terrorism. There is only moral clarity in fighting against it. Then there are attempts from far away to solve the conflict here. By the way, we would be very happy to solve it for the future of our children and the future of our state. But there is no bigger mistake to try to understand our region, the Middle East, quite a unique region, according to norms or standards from totally different neighborhoods around the world. There have been moves that people justify as moral because they think they help peace, but they do not understand what they are really doing, what impact they are having here, and that they are not promoting peace, but encouraging terror and distancing peace. Just recently we saw the European Court make a decision that goods made in Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria should be marked differently to the rest of Israel. Some people want to paint this as moral decision. Let's not pretend for even a minute that we do not know the real motives, the real reason behind this decision. This is an attempt to delegitimize the right of the Jewish people to live and build our future in the land of our forefathers. This is Judea and Samaria. Who comes from Judea? Jews. The same way anti-Israeli supporters now invents that Jesus was Palestinian. when of course he would have been a Jew in Judea in the days when the Jewish temple stood in Jerusalem. But this lack of moral clarity and historical clarity as well is not just offensive, it is dangerous. This lack of moral clarity does not further peace, it promotes violence. Targeting Israeli business that work with Palestinians does not support Palestinians. They may lose their jobs in the business is badly affected. Who will be there ready to help them instead? Hamas. Hamas might give them free education, teach their children to hate, teach them to be suicide bombers. Marking Jewish goods made in Judea and Samaria lacks moral clarity. You here today, you have shown great moral clarity as you stand against this movement. Another issue, EU and the international funding for Palestinian Authority. This seems to people around the world like the moral thing to do, to help the Palestinians. But where does that money go? It goes to pay terrorist salaries and support the families of people who murdered Jews. The Palestinian Authority pay-to-slave policy is supported by the aid that they receive from governments around the world. And I don't see the supporting states says, stop it. Simply stop it. Don't encourage terror by strict Palestinian laws. There is no moral clarity here. I'm going from this meeting to visit Khan al-Ahmar, where European and other governments have been preventing Israel carrying out its sovereign right to clear an illegal Palestinian campsite. Try to prevent, at least. The people who live there, the families and children, have been in talks with Israel about an alternative, safer place for them to live, but the foreign powers, and some Israelis as well, having been keeping them there, stopping them have better lives, so they can score political points against Israel. Is this moral clarity? Of course not. I ask all of you, when you return to your countries, take this message with you. It is time for moral clarity on these issues. I do not doubt that some people do have good intentions. Not everyone is driven by antisemitism when they take anti-Israel decisions, but they lack, sometimes, the understanding of reality. In the decision to mark Israeli goods from the Golan, Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, the EU is not acting morally or legally. Applying these rules to Israel, and only Israel, is against World Trade Organization laws. Your announcement that you're making here today is a clear and important voice, making clear the rights of the Jewish people in our homeland, making clear you reject BDS and recognizing BDS as a clear expression of anti-Semitism, making clear you reject marking Jewish goods from Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, and the Golan, making clear that the Jewish people cannot be occupiers in their own land, making clear bonds between our communities based on shared values. Today, I accept warmly this important statement you made, on behalf of all Israel and join you in calling on the EU, on governments around the world. Do not be blind to the truth. It is time to show more clarity when it comes to the conflict and all the issues in the Middle East. And friends from all over the world, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your firm stand, for your moral clarity when it comes to some of the key issues we are dealing with. You are here to stand with the Jewish people and our right to our freedom and independence as a people in our homeland. I want to thank you, each and every one of you, for what you're doing in your countries and for coming here for this important meeting. Thank you so much.
That was Gideon Sa'ar, Likud candidate for Prime Minister. Thought it was very important to give our listeners around the world an opportunity to hear him because he will be running against Netanyahu in a Likud primary. We also spoke at this event to Josh Reinstein, the head of the Israel Allies Foundation, about the success of faith-based diplomacy.
This conference has been extremely important, especially in this time, because of the decision of the European Court of Justice to label goods from Judea, Samaria, Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. This is an illegal decision, illegal according to the World Trade Organizations, because you cannot single out not only one part of one conflict, but even more egregiously, they've only singled out the Jewish owners of the businesses and not the Arab Israelis. So it's only Jewish Israelis that have to sign it. So we started the conference with a trip to Barkan industrial region so that the members can see this for themselves, to understand the issues. We went to Psagot, the winery that took these grievance to the European Court of Justice, thinking that for sure they would rule against this regulation because it's anti-Semitism. They were surprised to see that the ruling was that they upholded anti-Semitism as an official regulation in the European Union. Yesterday we met with very distinguished leaders of the government of Israel, Yair Lapid. We met with the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, with Bogi Ayalon, to understand from more of a strategic side what was going on in Jerusalem, what was going on in Judea and Samaria. We also had, for the only conference while he was here, the President-elect of Guatemala, our dear friend, who moved their embassy to Jerusalem, and now is discussing has just decided to put Hezbollah on the terrorist watch list, and now is discussing maybe adopting Mike Pompeo's decision to declare that Judea and Samaria is not illegal communities. And of course, we ended it with this resolution that was signed by all the members, 25 members of parliament, against the labeling laws in support of United Jerusalem, which we gave to Gideon Sa'ar on behalf of the government of Israel. So from this event was very significant in the fact that we were able to bring 25 members of parliament from our Israel Allies caucuses around the world, ministers, members of parliament, government leaders, and we will be leaving from this event this afternoon straight to Brussels for a conference together with the European Christian political movement, a political party within the European Union, against the labeling laws as well. This has been a very significant ramp up for the last 15 years. What we have today is 40 Israel Allies caucuses and parliaments around the world, including the Congressional Israel Allies Caucus. It's allowed us to operate all over the world. We have over 1,000 members of parliament in our network. Shortly coming out will be a resolution from the Congress against the decision of the European Court of Justice. So we're moving in very powerful ways. Faith-based diplomacy today is the most effective weapon that Israel has in its diplomatic arsenal. And before that, we were really just trying to get Christians to understand the issues. Now we're in a situation where we've been able to pass anti-BDS legislation in 27 states in America. Because of Christian support, we moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and now we're going after these anti-Semitic declarations of the European Court of Justice. So I see today, unlike 15 years ago, we have a powerful, vibrant, and new support around the world of Bible-believing Christians and Jews who are taking their biblical support for Israel and turning it into real political action.
Did any of the politicians who met with your group surprise you in any of the remarks that they told them?
I think for them, what I was most surprised is their the fact that they're so dedicated to fighting these anti-Semitic labeling laws in Europe. They are very offended that in 2019 they're once again labeling Jewish goods, and it has nothing to do with the Palestinians. It's not just in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria. It's also in the Golan Heights, where there aren't any Palestinians. So it's really anywhere there's a disputed territory that Jews are involved, you label them. But the 200 other disputes, whether it be in Cyprus or Sub-Saharan Africa and Morocco or Crimea, you don't. And it's really shocking to some of the people that this is what's coming about it. And we've seen incredible success stories in our network, whether it be from a member of parliament in South Africa to stop the labeling in South Africa, which is a very hostile nation to Israel. We're going to see, I think people are going to be surprised how strong our response to this decision is.
That was Josh Reinstein, the head of the Israel Allies Foundation. While we're here, we also spoke to Representative Alan Clemmons from South Carolina, who has been a big success in passing anti-BDS laws in the United States. He started there in his home state of South Carolina, which was really the model for states around America. Here is Representative Clemmons from South Carolina. So what are the new challenges that we're facing today?
Well, first of all, I think Nikki Haley has gone above and beyond everything that I could teach. We're excited to be here in the Chairman's Conference of the Israel Allies Foundation. We've been here now for 3 days. We have met with various leaders of Israel, from Knesset members to the Prime Minister of the country. And it's been an informative, enlightening opportunity to talk important policy issues. It's been important for me to be involved so that I can get to know the parliamentarians from 20 other countries that are here with us, who are making the difference on the ground where they live with regard to pushing back on the darkness of anti-Semitic lies involving Israel and replacing those with the light of truth. Anti-Semitism is pure darkness. When we look at the BDS movement, when we look at labeling issues, it's the darkness of hatred that's bringing those about. That can be changed. That's changed by people opening their mouths with the truth. That's what the parliamentarians are being armored with here in this conference.
And you've got a bill on anti-Semitism that you're spreading around America?
I do. We're working. We've passed in South Carolina, in my home state, a bill that codifies the internationally recognized definition of anti-Semitism that also equates anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
And you're trying to get that now passed in other states?
That's correct.
How are you doing?
We're doing well. There's a lot of interest, particularly in light of what we've been seeing in the Democratic primary presidential candidates. We're seeing a real race to the bottom with regard to Israel. Each candidate's trying to outdo the other on delegitimizing the Jewish nation. That, I'm afraid, is adding fire to anti-Semitism in my country. So it's important, and I think it will become more important as we proceed towards elections in America. So I think the bill is timely.
Last question, because our guest of honor has arrived at this event. What's it like being here in the middle of a political mess in Israel? Does it make you feel better about what you deal with back home?
Well, we had this television series back home called House of Cards. I feel like I'm living in House of Cards while I'm here in Israel and watching this political drama unfold. It is a mess. My heart bleeds for my friends here in Israel because it's not a fun time to be watching and participating in politics here in Israel. I understand that. It is for a political junkie, it's an incredible thing to be a fly on the wall to watch, though, and it'll be interesting to see how things proceed in the next few days.
Indeed, sad but true. Thank you very much for your time, Representative Clemmons. That was Representative Alan Clemmons from South Carolina, the man who initiated the anti-BDS laws that have passed in 27 states in the United States and now is working on anti-Semitism laws defining what anti-Semitism is, which already passed in his home state of South Carolina. He's also the man who taught the governor of South Carolina, who then later became our United States ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, everything she knows. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen, here at Inside Israel Today. It's been a pleasure We'll talk to you next week, back into the dregs of Israeli politics. Bye-bye.
This week on the Yishai Fleischer Show, Yishai tells the story of how he came back to Israel.
You know what I felt right there? I felt this is my sign. There are times in life where you just don't know. And then there are times in life when you know. And I knew that this was my sign. And I want to tell you, in 3 weeks, Malka and I were living in Beit El. We packed up and we were out of New York City, and the rest is history, right?
That's the Yishai Fleischer Show on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.com.